Wow. And that panel was great, wasn't it? That was awesome. So this is my first keynote speech. I'm a little bit nervous. It's funny because I've DJed at Marvel Stadium and at festivals in front of thousands of people, yet here I am, a little bit nervous about what I'm about to deliver because I'm telling a little bit about my story. Sorry, gotta keep the mic. Yeah, it's a real honour to be here today among fellow Vietnamese Australian creatives, professionals, entrepreneurs and community leaders. I know that Lynn's already done acknowledgement to country, but I'd like to do one as well. So before I begin, I want to acknowledge the traditional lands, traditional owners of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I want to acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. So many of you know me as Nam, but I also answer to Nam. Nam is the Aussie way. I introduce myself as Nam, but Nam is what my family and my Vietnamese friends call me. And I think therein lies the topic for today, being caught between two worlds. I answer to both names. Thanks, Kat. I'm a DJ, a music, a promoter, a curator, a teacher, and a social worker. I know it sounds a lot, and it is. So today I want to take you briefly through my story, how I got into music, how my Vietnamese roots shaped me, every part of it, and why our culture isn't just something we carry, it's something we create. I was born in 1978 in East Melbourne at Mercy Hospital, 1 year after my parents arrived in Australia as refugees. Their story is where mine begins. In 1977, they fled Vietnam by boat. My mum strapped her babies, my sisters, to her body. She couldn't swim. She clung onto a tire and made her way onto the boat. They were out at sea 7 days and 7 nights. They were attacked by Thai pirates, but they knew that was going to happen and they brought valuables to trade for their lives. Eventually, they were rescued by Thai fishing boat, or so I thought. I recently learned that this Thai fishing boat wanted to separate the men from the women and children and leave the men at sea. My dad, through sheer will of survival, grit, determination, and an unyielding love for his family, jumped the boat and physically fought them until they agreed to take everyone. That part makes me emotional because I only learned that recently. My dad kept that part of his story silent for many years and he just wore it. My mom was also dehydrated to the point where she couldn't breastfeed her children, my sisters. Then they were taken to Songkhla Beach. It's a refugee camp in Thailand. And it was there that they then stayed for a few months and were able to make their way here. That's the kind of strength that I come from. Not spoken about much, but it's every part of who I am. Richmond Flats. So 1980s, my dad was an avid photographer. He loved taking pictures of his family. He loved making me pose. He's actually got, I should have put the other photo up, but there's one where he's got me sitting in front of a bush of flowers, just posing. I was like 3 years old. So I smelt the flowers. But growing up in the Richmond Flats in the 80s, it was loud, it was messy, but it was multicultural and it was live. Neighbours would yell across the grey barren hallways. I don't know if any of you, who's been to Richmond Flats? You know the hallways I'm talking about? Yeah. Funny story, our neighbour at the time was a Vietnamese Cantonese man. He had relatives in Hong Kong who would record the TV dramas and Kung Fu series. Who remembers Fin Tup or Fin Bol? We grew up on that, right? He was the original blockbuster for us. None of it was dubbed in Vietnamese either. So I had to learn how to understand Cantonese at like 6 or 7 years old. So I could go and order some food at Yum Cha. So everything around us was, there's a smell of fish sauce, rice, tikka, pho, and fried everything. There was a real sense of community. We didn't have much, but we had each other. So in 1987, my parents felt it was time to move out of the flats because it wasn't becoming safe, and they were concerned about where we were living. So we moved out to the southeastern suburb of Ashburton. Who knows where Ashburton is?
I grew up there too.
Did you? There you go. It's near Chadstone. In the late 80s when we moved out there, we were one of 3 Asian families. Think about that, one of 3 Asian families. So I went from this multicultural hub to a very white neighborhood. It was quieter and in many ways harder to find belonging. But that's where I learned how to shift between cultures, to blend in without losing myself. And that duality of doing or being in between, I think, is something a lot of us carry. That's my dad with the guitar. He loved music. He really enjoyed music. He bought me, or us, a piano, made me take classes that I loved and ended up hating, because I had to practice. He sent my sister to violin classes, I think in the hope that one day we would start a family orchestra like the family from The Sound of Music. That never happened. He actually didn't know how to play the guitar, but he bought one and tried to teach himself. He also would sing for us. Was he any good? Not in my eyes. But, but he showed us what it is to be creative. And at home, let's take a step back. The reason why he bought us all these instruments was because as a kid, he grew up in abject poverty in his hometown of Long Sing. And for him, he would sneak into people's houses, outside, and watch other students or other children learn how to play instruments. And he dreamt that one day he could do that too. And that dream for him came true because he was able to do it for us. At home, who remembers Paris by Night? Everyone does, right? It was a staple in our home. My parents would sit there and watch it. The eyes were fixed on the screen. They would get teary, nostalgic, and homesick. As a kid, I didn't really get it. But it reminded us that we came from something proud, emotional, and beautiful. Outside the house, moving into my teens, I discovered 90s R&B and hip hop. That's where I found my voice. It wasn't just about the beats, it was the stories. Music was about struggles and not fitting in. It was about systems that don't serve you and still finding pride in who you are. I didn't grow up in the projects like in the Bronx or Compton, but I felt every lyric and struggle. In my 20s, I discovered UK music. Who knows what UK music is? Yeah, the rave scene, underground sounds. The reason that appealed to me was because It didn't subscribe to the mainstream, which is how I felt about myself growing up here. I found a culture that I could connect with yet again, and my love for DJing began. I didn't go to DJ school. There were no YouTube tutorials, no social media tips and tricks. I didn't have a mentor guiding me. I just started going to gigs, watching DJs, and thought to myself, I want to do that, but how? So I spent countless hours going to record stores, spent all my hard-earned money from my crappy telemarketing job buying records. I taught myself, I started DJing, I went to a friend's house who had equipment because I couldn't afford it. It was out of reach for me at that time to be able to spend $3,000 on a couple of turntables, a mixer, and some speakers. I wasn't getting booked at first, so I started putting on my own parties, and they failed miserably. Failed, no one came. So I started working with bigger promoters to learn how they do it. I cut my teeth and paid my dues to learn the industry. Over time, I became a promoter, a tour manager, an artist liaison, and eventually a DJ who would get booked regularly. I've helped run events with some of Melbourne's most respected crews. I've played at some of the big festivals in Melbourne from, who remembers Summer Days?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Stereosonic? Yeah, done that as well. Rainbow Serpent? Yeah, I played at all those events. I've even played around Australia. I've played twice in Bangkok, I've played twice in Vietnam. By the way, Vietnam scene is popping at the moment. I don't know if you know that, but it is alive. I've helped book artists I used to idolise. I've played in rooms that I used to dream about, and none of it came from a template. It came from turning curiosity into courage. For a long time, I didn't talk about being Vietnamese in the scene. I didn't see people like me on stage or even back of house or behind the scenes. There were no champions for Vietnamese Australians in the scene as I was moving through it. I just focused on my work, but now I realize that my culture shaped my entire approach. It taught me how to lead quietly, how to put community over ego, how to respect the process and not just chase outcomes. And in everything I've done, in music and also as a social worker, those values are front and center. Whether I'm behind the decks or supporting someone through their mental health journey and system, I'm always listening, because paying attention in the space that I'm in is what our parents did. They listened, they adapted, they showed up. So you might think music and social work are quite opposites, but they both come from the same place. People, right? They both require empathy, they both deal with trauma, stories, identity, and connection. As a social worker, I've supported people with psychosocial disabilities, and I help them navigate the NDIS. I advocate for funding, services, support, and most importantly, dignity. Just like in music, I create spaces where people feel seen, where people feel like they belong, and where people can reclaim their voice. That's what I care about across all the work that I do. That artwork there is from my beautiful friend Kat. That was from, round of applause. That's from my last recent event at Section 8 where I did an all Vietnamese lineup. I know I'm not the first to do an all Vietnamese lineup, but I think in this space, in this era, I wanted to see what I didn't see growing up. So nothing I've done was handed to me, and this is why I created events that I didn't see. I book artists who deserve more attention, I've mentored younger DJs, lifted up emerging creatives, pushed for more diverse lineups. I don't want to be just in a room. I want to be changed. I want to change the feel of the room, make it safer, more inclusive, more honest, more real. That's what culture allows us to do. It gives us perspective and keeps us grounded. It reminds us to hold the door open once we've walked through it. Excuse the notes. That is a photo of my Malai and my step online. Right? And the reason I put that up there is because he taught me what it is to care for someone you love unconditionally. I never got to meet my Malai. She passed away before I could go back to Vietnam. But I got to meet my step online. In the final years, when my Malai was no longer mobile, in his old age, he used to piggyback her into the shower to bathe her. Her only surviving child, my mum, was here with her family and couldn't provide the care that she needed. He was selfless to the end. He showed me that what unconditional love was, right? So to me, being Vietnamese Australian isn't something to balance, it's something to honour. I'm proud of my parents' resilience. I'm proud of our community's creativity. I'm proud of how we carry our past into every room that we enter. My journey through the industry, music industry and social work hasn't been linear, but it's deeply grounded in values, in culture, in purpose. Yes, that's a picture of me with my 10-year-old son. He's about to turn 10 next week. He loves singing, he loves dancing, he loves music. He wants me to teach him how to DJ and I said no. I don't want him to have the DJ life. No chance in hell. So to anyone younger coming up, and to those who aren't sure where they're at in their journey, you don't need to shrink yourself to fit in. Your identity is your edge. Your story is your strategy. Your culture is your compass. Build your own path, make your own space, take pride in the legacy that you're carrying forward. Make your ancestors proud. I want to inspire and also be inspired. Because my story is also our story. Thank you.